Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Double T Podcast Network. I am your humble host, Double T, wishing everybody a happy new year. Happy 2025. And let's all hope that everybody got through it unscathed, and wishing everybody health, happiness, and a very prosperous 2025. Folks, today, as we're winding down the presidency of Joe Biden, I want to talk about the fact that America is coming to two historic crossroads on January 20th. The first is one of a man who's been in politics all of his life and is concerned walking out the door of what his legacy will be. The other one is of a man who hopes to restore America to its former glory and make it even bigger. Two men, two crossroads, such different ideologies. I want to take some time to talk about President Biden. Now, I'm not going to lie, I have not been very kind to President Biden over the last 4 years. In the moment, folks, in the moment, when things are done that you can't grasp and don't make any sense, and you see things and you can't fix them, and there's people that are elected to positions that won't fix them, that's when you get a little agita, as the Italians say. You get a little agita, a little in the throat. First off, let's talk about the elephant in the room, and that would be Biden's memory and cognitive decline. See, everything's starting to come out now, all right, because everybody's looking for jobs. And more I'm hearing stories, validated stories, of how Biden's been this way since day one. It's just gotten worse. And his staff, which are all leftover Obama staffers, they've put up the guardrails and they've protected him. Everybody knew, but wouldn't invoke the 25th Amendment. Why? Because of Kamala? Who was really pulling the strings then? If Biden wasn't capable, I know Kamala wasn't pulling the strings, because I have to be honest with you, I still don't think she was capable of it. But there's all Obama staffers there. And if you remember back to an interview Obama did after he left office, he was sitting there talking, it was a casual interview, and Obama said, well, if there was a way that he could just be down in his basement in his sweats and his t-shirt and, having somebody in the White House with an earpiece in, and, he was telling him what to say, and, let the other person handle all the public stuff, and Obama would call the shots from behind, he would do a third term like that. I think he did. I think he just did. But let's not discount, in retrospect, the good things that Biden did. 16 million new jobs over 4 years were created. Unemployment is the lowest it's been in 50 years. I'm not confident on those numbers, because when you talk about new jobs being created, a lot of those could be part-time jobs. A lot of those could be people repatriating into the workplace. And that's why the unemployment rate could be going down. There's some people that are working 2 and 3 jobs, which could, those add on to the employment numbers. But I'm going to give them some credit there. Wage growth increased. and that's a good thing. And a record 20 million applications from new businesses were filed. And that's fantastic. So, I mean, Biden got some things done, or somebody got some things done. However, there's a good list and there's a bad list. Unfortunately, the bad list is a lot longer than the good list. The EV mandate. You can't mandate something in a short period of time that 90% of the country can't afford, and we don't have the raw materials to make. And I'm talking about the batteries. Okay? China makes the batteries. You know who's in the caves over in Afghanistan digging out minerals to make those batteries? China. So the infrastructure bill, and I don't know how much that was off the top of my head, but it included $400 billion to mitigate the effects of climate change. I think climate change on the list of things that we need to be concerned with is not in the top 10. Let's put it to you that way. Now, from a foreign policy perspective, Joe was a disaster. Starting with the Afghan withdrawal. Understood it had to be done. 5 presidents before him wanted to get it done. Trump had Afghan down to 2,500 troops. We had control of that air base. We needed control of that air base. All right? And if we left Afghanistan, we were still going to control that air base. Bagram. Because it is key strategically for Russia and China and so on and so forth, and Iran. So they completely botched the withdrawal. Okay, they just, and I don't know who made the final, well, I know Joe made the final call. Kamala was the last person in the room. She was probably in the corner with a bottle of rosé. I don't know how. I don't know if it was Austin, if it was Milley, if it was Biden, if it was their advice that he took, or if he just said, I mean, because all Secretary of Defense and the DOD guys and the generals there, all they are there to do is to advise the president. He doesn't have to take their advice. But let's face it, as a military guy, Joe had no experience. So you should advise take the advice of your counsel, or maybe seek some more advice, or sit down with your cabinet and hash it out. But to pull out the way that they did and just give up everything, lose 13 American lives, lose control of the Air Force Base, leave $85 billion worth of high-grade military equipment there, and plus leave people behind, was the wrong way to go about it. And it was a funny question, because when this happened, I went absolutely bananas. And I'm sorry about that, folks. I went absolutely bananas. And I was talking to my then 15-year-old grandson. And I said to him, here, I want to ask you a question, because I just had to do this. So I wrote everything down, like, okay, you got this, you got this, you got this, and you got this. I said, you got to get out of there. I said, how would you execute the withdrawal? And he said, first I'd get the people out. I said, okay, that's smart. I said, then what? He said, then I'd get the military equipment out. I said, okay. I said, what if you couldn't get the military equipment out? He said, I'd blow it up so they couldn't have it. And last but not least, the military goes. As a 15-year-old kid, 14-year-old kid. He can do better. On day one, when Joe Biden was sworn in, he signed executive orders undoing anything he possibly could that was a Donald Trump policy. Now, today you're seeing the consequences of it. Now, let's stay on foreign policy for a second. That included letting Russia reopen the Nord Stream pipeline. The Nord Stream pipeline, Trump got shut down. Russia was starving. They were broke. Iran, broke. Hamas, broke. The Houthis, broke. Everybody in the Middle East and Russia was starving because of the sanctions Trump had put on them and the positioning that he took with everybody. Nobody had any money to do anything. But as soon as the oil started flowing through Nord Stream, Putin started accumulating wealth. And guess what that wealth did? It funded the Ukraine war. Okay? After watching Biden embarrass himself in Ukraine, Putin said, this is going to be easy. And it was. Now, you've got a war going on in Eastern Europe, and all of a sudden, a year ago in October, on the 7th, Hamas bombs Israel. And I don't really think that Biden has done the right thing by Israel. And there's three military things: Afghanistan, the Middle East, and Ukraine, that were not on the table when Trump was president. That would have never happened when Trump was president. But Joe is asleep at the wheel. Okay? He gave $6 billion back to Iran that we had frozen. And Iran is this close to having enough material to actually have a nuclear weapon. That's just what we need. Now you got North Korea fighting with Russia against Ukraine. You got Biden's got an open checkbook for Ukraine. I don't have no idea what Zelensky's got on Biden. But if you notice, everybody's flying down to Mar-a-Lago now. Biden's out of the picture. Zelensky looked like a little scared puppy when he went down to Mar-a-Lago because he knows it's over. He knows it's over. He's going to concede land. This war will be over soon. He ain't going to be happy about it. But when you negotiate to end a war, somebody ain't going to be happy. And they unnecessarily destroyed one of the most beautiful countries in the world, the Ukraine, with all those 2,000-year-old churches with the gold domes, and they're all in it's all a shambles. I don't understand the open checkbook with Ukraine, and I don't understand why he wants to help, or why he doesn't want to help Israel in the way that he should. And today, because Joe's not sleeping right now, Sleepy Joe kind of woke up. He just went to St. Croix for a week. He's back now, and he's headed off to Italy next week. I think he's heading off to Italy. I don't know if he's going to try to pardon the Pope or if he's going to ask for a blessing. He does need a blessing. But today, Joe did something that would make most Americans proud, but not this American. He awarded the Presidential Citizenship Award, to the members of the J6 committee. And he made a big deal over Liz Cheney and Penny Thompson. Thomas is his name, I think, or Benny Thompson or something. And all those guys that were on the January 6th committee, forget about the perjury, forget about Cassidy Hutchinson, forget about they didn't prove a goddamn thing. He's giving them a fucking medal. It's a good thing they didn't give him the Medal of Freedom. But, I mean, this guy, all right, I don't know. A couple weeks ago, after 2 years of listening to Corinne Jean-Pierre and Biden say that he wasn't going to pardon Hunter, he pardoned Hunter. And the pardon he gave Hunter is from December 1st of 2014 to December of 2024. So there might be crimes in there that Hunter committed we don't even know about that he got pardoned for. Now come all the pardons. Joe's not a bitter man. He's beyond bitter. Joe is looking to do as much damage as he can on the way out to stop or slow down anything that the new incoming administration can do. Like selling the unconstructed parts of the wall that have been sitting there for 4 years for scrap. Steel. Some decent money for scrap. And he was selling it for pennies on the dollar until Trump went to court and got a stay that he can't sell it anymore. You sometimes ask, how will history judge somebody? Now, generally, history judges somebody by their actions. Okay? And we lost Jimmy Carter this week at 100 years old, oldest living president of all time. Jimmy Carter wasn't the president for the time that he was in. As a man, none better. Jimmy Carter was a man of faith. Jimmy Carter was a man of humanity. Jimmy Carter was a very stellar guy. Might not have been the best president in the world, but Jimmy Carter actually became more popular post-presidency than he did during his presidency. History looks kinder at Richard Nixon today than they did back in the 70s. And they will look kindly at Bill Clinton. I do not think that history will look kindly on Barack Obama or Joe Biden. Obama, because he was the most racially divisive president in the entire history of presidents. Him and his sidekick, Eric Holder. And Biden just fucked everything up. And I wonder, because I listened to this bullshit with Kamala. I don't know what it is, but I mean, I listened to this bullshit from her for 6 months or whatever. It seemed like 60 years. How she was involved in every single decision, how she wouldn't have done anything differently, how she was always the last person in the room. I saw her, she's been MIA since the election. The only thing I've seen with her is her campaign spent $1.5 billion and is in the red. because her good buddies like Oprah took $1 million for appearing, and she spent $100,000 on us to make the set look like some daddy podcast she went on. She made the podcast come to her, and she spent $100,000 on a set to look like she was there. Call me daddy or something. I don't know what it was. She wouldn't go to Rogan. She insisted Rogan come to him. Rogan told her to go fuck herself. But the only videos I've seen of her recently were like, let's be unburdened by what has been. But she looks drunk. I think she got a little problem with the sauce, to be quite honest with you. But do you remember the Seinfeld episode where they were sitting in the coffee shop and George was just really pissed off at his life, saying that he's done everything wrong and he's going to now become the anti-George. So no matter what he decides to do, he's going to do the opposite. So every day he would get egg salad at the diner. He turned around and said, I want chicken salad today. And he went up and talked to a guy that he would never, he just did things differently to see if his life would be any different, but it wasn't. But he was the anti-George. And that's what Kamala should have been, the anti-Kamala. And just thought that just popped into my head, and I thought it was kind of funny. On our next episode, we're going to go through the Trump cabinet. And we will also hopefully find out by tomorrow. Today's January 2nd. We'll find out tomorrow what the story is with Mike Johnson as Speaker of the House. And we'll go from there, because if they don't ratify the Speaker of the House, they're supposed to certify the election on January 6th. So that might present some issues, because we can't do another Kevin McCarthy thing. So I'm excited for what's to come, because I am unburdened now from what's about to be the past. Just want to wish all of you a happy new year. And folks, take my advice. Stop and smell the roses. Take a little time once in a while and stop and smell the roses. They smell great. And if you have an opportunity to do a random act of kindness for someone, please take that opportunity. You won't regret it. Because if we all did our part and did little random acts of kindness for strangers, this world would be a much, much better place to live. So until we meet again, this is Double T saying Bonana and ciao ciao.
Memories pressed between the pages of my mind. Memories sweeping through the ages just like wine. Quiet thoughts come floating down and settle softly to the ground like golden autumn leaves around my feet. I touch them and they burst apart with sweet memories. Sweet memories of holding hands and red bouquets and twilights trimmed in purple haze, laughing eyes and simple ways, quiet nights and gentle days with you.